So meditation. When someone is in a form of meditation and they're meditating, let's say 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, morning and night, and they're rehearsing in their brain the scenario that they would like to create for their life. They want to see themselves in a different existence. Let's say if somebody's having financial troubles and they want to see money coming in and money flowing in, and they're literally rehearsing this over and over again and singing it over and over again in their brain and what it would be like and what it would feel like. And, you know, do you feel I know it's not as effective as this having a helmet on and gloves on and things but do you feel that something like that could be?
No.
No, why? Because I would beg to differ, because I've read and I've experienced where rehearsal rewires the brain, and your brain feels or thinks that it is in that situation at that moment, and then with quantum physics, they say that draws it into you, because the lower cerebellum registers what's in the frontal lobe of the brain. And because of that, the lower cerebellum is the part of the brain that's connected to the quantum field and attracts situations into our life. But you're saying no?
No.
No. Why are you saying no?
I'd see that as very, very different from what I'm talking about. Is much more mechanical, and it is rewiring the brain, but it's done in a much more direct mechanical way, where it's driven by something outside the brain. So, for example, for someone who has difficulty with directions, let's say, someone who always gets lost, can't find their way through a maze or find a way out of somewhere, can't remember where they've just been. Well, the very basic human tendency and usage of short-term to long-term memory is spatial locality. How do they know where they are and where they came from, and whether they're facing north, south, east, west. And there's a number of synaptic connections between short-term and long-term memory. And these are channels that are muscles like any other muscle in the body. The more they're exercised, the wider they get. So if someone tells you their telephone number, you will store it in dendrites and in neurons. And if you never access it or use it again, and I ask you tomorrow what the number is, you might remember 1 or 2 digits, but you pretty much won't remember the whole thing, because the muscles have died out. They haven't been exercised enough. But if I ask you your own phone number, you access on a regular basis, it's stored strongly, the channels to it are wide, you know where it's located, and the electrons will flow straight to it and back again, so you can access those numbers and your address and your name and information like that. So to strengthen, if I put you in a simulator in a maze, and you believe you're there, and you're either running after something or running away from something, and you're exercising and practicing in that maze for a few hours every single day, your spatial locality will get stronger, because you're now taking your brain to the gym and exercised the neurons in it, made them wider, the same as if you just kept saying your telephone number and over again. That's very different from sitting there imagining I'm going to get rich someday and hoping that will help money flow into my bank account. Now, if they sit there meditating to clear their mind, say, I want to get rich one day, and then think about, how could I do it? I could do it this way, I could do an infomercial, I could invent this, maybe I could plan that, I should follow up with that other guy, and they start planning things they could do that would result in material results, then yes, that's a useful use of their time.
Right.
But it has nothing to do with the visualization of it.
Right, because, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with The Secret, the movie The Secret.
Yes.
And so many, it's a wonderful movie, it's a great beginning, all that sort of stuff. But it talks about, you know, we see and we feel and we get clear on what we want, and then we feel it into an existence, and it'll draw into us, because of the quantum field, the situation we'd like to create. And I think it's a great beginning, but I think that there's so many other aspects that need to be incorporated into this sort of situation. And for you, you're saying naturally the practical application would be, you got to make the phone calls, you got to take the action, you got to. But do you think there's a part?
You got to go get it.
Yeah, you got to go. Yeah.
It's not going to come to you.
No, but quantum physics would say differently. That literally what I just said to you earlier about when we register something in the frontal, when we were constantly visualizing ourselves, seeing our situation in our mind over and over again, that will get registered by the lower cerebellum of the brain. And that part of the brain will take a snapshot of the picture that you constantly are picturing over and over again and send it out. Well, look at Einstein. I mean, he would, when he contemplated his bicycle, I mean, that's how he came up with the theory of relativity. You know, is that he contemplated that for 10 years. And if his bicycle traveled at the speed of light, would the light actually come on?
Right.
Yes. And so, and he was able to download all the information that he needed from the universe to answer those questions. He had no footnotes. So he drew in situations to him to answer the question that he needed. And they're saying in quantum physics that when you are contemplating or visually seeing something over and over again and it's getting registered by the frontal lobe of the brain, that the lower cerebellum is sending it out into the quantum field, and you're going to attract in situations to you. You just can't help but. I mean, what do you think about coincidences? That's why quantum physics would say that's a result of a coincidence, so to speak. Do you think coincidences are real or not real? Or
I think coincidences are just coincidences. They're random events that just happened, and there's no science to it. There's no magic to it.
You don't think so?
And I think Einstein has a guy with a math background with a bicycle who thought about life in a very, very clever way. But that's it. There was no knowledge from the universe that helped him do his math.
You don't think, though, that the knowledge that he gained didn't already exist in a parallel universe, operating in the universe at that time?
No.
You don't. Well, what would you think about parallel realities and alternate realities?
Alternate realities exist if you create them the way I just mentioned. And if you go to sleep and you're dreaming, that's one reality. If you put on a virtual reality kit and play a game for an hour, that's another reality.
Right.
But it's tangible. You created it. You can control it. You can see it.
Interesting. It's very interesting.
They don't exist without some effort. Almost nothing does.
Okay. Because physics and atoms and molecules, it's interesting how it would be different from the logic behind of what you're saying. It's two totally different fields. It really is. Fascinating stuff, I think. Do you know? Very fascinating. Well, we're just about out of time here. Is there anything else that you would like for us to, as just normal human beings being here on Earth, I mean, how can we prepare for like all the world events that are happening and to be more, oh God, that's a huge question. We can't answer in 2 minutes. No, that's all. How can we prepare ourselves for future things to come, and what is to come? What are some of the things that you think are going to...
I'd say change.
Just simply change.
Everything from prejudices to travel to being open-minded that the U.S. might not be the world's greatest superpower forever, that English might not be the language of business forever.
Right.
That our currencies might change, that how we work, where we work, how we commute to work, who we work for might all change. The concept of there even being a large corporation might change.
Wow.
And the concept that we need human beings to do a lot of things may change.
So what happens to all of us humans that need to work and earn money and be able to...
I think things may break into the old-fashioned class system. There'll be folks who tell the systems what to do, and there'll be folks who the systems tell them what to do. We're already there when you look in supermarkets and hotels and try and book your flight tickets and everything else, or go down to the bank. There are people there where they're only allowed to do what the computer lets them do.
Right.
And there's programmers elsewhere who are telling the computer what they will let the humans do. That is not going to go away. That's just going to spread.
Escalate. Fascinating, fascinating. I really thank you for taking time out. I know you're dealing a lot now with all big things going on in the world, and I just thank you for being here and really sitting with me here tonight.
Thanks.
It's
Good
great
question.
to see you. Yes, thank you. Thanks so much for joining us, and please join us next week with Conversations with Monique Gild. Good night.